A long time ago in a galaxy not yet bleakly oversaturated with Marvel films, those nerds from LucasArts went to task on creating a tie-in game to the highly anticipated Star Wars Episode 2. But rather than rehashing and adapting the film scenes, one project at LucasArts instead was used for telling an alternate plot that ties into the universe by taking place before and during the film's set-piece moment of the Battle of Geonosis, starring a different cast of characters than the Chosen One and the Holy One. In this tale of galaxy-wide proportions, you fit yourself into the cockpits of both Jedi Master Jedi Gallia and a pirate at odds with the Trade Federation named Nim.
My system. I call the shots.
When the story begins, that dastardly devil Space Saruman is up to his Sithery tricks as he hires the dangerous Captain Toth of the Trade Federation to create a new weapon that is needed by the time the Battle of Geonosis begins. And you know Toth is trouble because he's smirking, his arms are crossed, and one eyebrow is raised higher than the other. Ooh, scary. Then we are ludicrous feeded into the perspective of Master Gallia after finishing a test of a top-of-the-line new Starfighter, which, believe it or not, is called Jedi Starfighter. Yeah, very original. When all of a sudden she's called in by Sam Jackson himself, not voiced by Sam Jackson. But I'm sticking him in anyway.
The recent political events trouble you.
Kiss my ass,
And he tasks her with finding out what those dumb motherfuckers at the Trade Federation are coalescing in the Karthakk system for. But first she must reach Nim, who is the leader of the resistance in that region and also Mace's secret waifu. The controls of your starships are very intuitive and easy to pick up. The crosshairs are accurate and you have unlimited basic firing ammo that shoots out with thunderous speed. But since many of the larger enemies basically act as bullet sponges with their vast reserves of health and shields, there will be situations where you just hold down the fire button, which really takes you out of the immersion. And enemy AI is as intelligent as moths flying into a fire. When I saw opposing ships on a path, they really didn't diverge from it, which makes them relatively easy to pick off. But that doesn't mean that it lacks difficulty. The missions progressively get harder the more you are carried down the stream of the story. This is by having more enemies that carry stronger shields and firepower. There was also a splendid variety of mission objectives and scenery, from protecting an ally on the beautiful waters to attacking a major enemy stronghold mining for resources that can create a superweapon to much, much more. And every level looks different from the next, except when you're in the vast void of space, because, you know, space. But where Jedi Starfighters truly shines is in the Starfighter's special abilities that are just really invigorating to use, no matter how much I think they break the lore, and I don't give a damn. Nim's ship has a whole arsenal of different weapons that have a tendency to explode, like mines which are useful when you know where a large number of enemies are about to come from, as well as missiles which come in handy when dealing with titanic enemies that don't go boom easily. While Master Gallia has the way cooler abilities which involve her force powers. She can make a shield around her ship which comes in handy when you're in a pinch and need some protection.
If you so wanna release your inner Jar Jar, you can inflict some force lightning when enemies are foolishly in a single squad.
And my personal favorite, the ability to
Control time.
However, ship abilities are not your only advantage because each pilot has command of their own squad. There isn't much to them other than your basic protect this objective or fire upon this enemy. But believe me, young Padawan, believe me, these will be essential for your path to victory. I do unfortunately have some complaints about the adventure. For one, being a Star Wars game, it doesn't have many of those Star Wars characters we know and love from the films. Count Dooku only appears for a minute in the opening cutscene and never again, while Master Windu is in the opening and ending cutscenes, and a couple of lines during the game.
Master Windu, Hex weapons are en route to Geonosis.
Shit, Negro, that's all you had to say.
Master Yoda also has a couple of lines, and Jango Fett is in the story mode for like a minute and then disappears to never be seen of again. And look, I understand that you don't need to have film characters to make a good Star Wars game, but as I will soon be explaining, there just isn't enough content here for it to stand in its own shoes. Though I will say the acting and music are great and carry much of the Star Wars tone that all of us nerds tend to love. The story, while it's not terrible, just feels lacking. And this is where we start getting into the root of my problem, because it can be completed in under 4 hours, easy. Maybe you can even do it in 3. And if you can't beat the game in this period of time, it's likely because there's no checkpoints. Because of this lack of content, I never felt like there was enough time to build up the characters or take in the stakes, especially since this dangerous weapon the baddie is working on the entire game only makes an appearance once, because the baddie uses it against his own allies. So yeah, Captain Toth sucks. This Bond villain ripoff appears in the game almost as long as Luke does in Revenge of the Sith. But I will say that there is a decent amount of replayability due to the bonus and secret objectives, which you can painstakingly attempt to complete in every mission. The bonuses you get from completing these actually are worth the trouble, from silly animated videos to other vehicles that can handle differently from the ones you play throughout the entirety of the story, to even some small submissions. Star Wars Jedi Starfighter is a good game, but it's definitely not stacked with as much content as I would like, especially from the ever-expanding universe of Star Wars. But for only $10, it's not a bad buy. That's why I give it a 3 out of 5.